Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Sheffield Selectboard for March 7th, 2022 to order. I first want to let you know, thank you, that the meeting is being recorded. We thank CTSB for doing so, and anyone who wishes to can review this again from the CTSB website. We have a full meeting tonight. We have our board here, our administrator, the town administrator, and our assistant town administrator. Before we get started, I would like to have a moment of silence. And we lost two outstanding members of our Sheffield community recently, and especially we want to remember and thank them for their service that they gave to our town. First, we lost Natalie Funk, who was our town clerk from 1982 to 1999. She spent 17 years, and if anyone had a chance to read her obituary, she was far ahead of her colleagues, both in her professionalism and her attainment of professional degrees and her advancement of the town clerk role, and really established a very smooth running office for those who followed her. The second person we want to remember tonight is James Collingwood Sr., who passed away last week. I've been told that Jim Sr. had a total of 53 years of service. However, this ran concurrently, and amongst the things that he contributed to our town were his time on the Selectboard, the Concom, the Board of Health, the School Committee, and the Planning Board. I think if all of those were laid end to end separately, the years would probably be astounding. So if we may please have a moment of silence for Natalie Funk and James Collingwood Sr. Thank you very much. Our first item on our agenda tonight is approval of meeting minutes. Is there a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Select Board minutes from January 27th, 2022, 3 sets, and from February 3rd, 2022, 2 sets.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next item is that we are going to have a presentation by Wiley Goodman, who is with Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. She is going to bring us up to date on the Commission's comprehensive economic development strategy, sometimes known as SETS. Wiley, please. And there's paper copies here at the end of the table for anyone who wants a copy of this presentation. You can come and get it now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Rhonda Lombard and Jill Hughes. Can you hear me?
You have to sit in there.
Is that the way? Thank you, everyone. Again, especially to the town administrator, Jill Hughes, the assistant town administrator, and Renee Wood as the select board chair for having me here tonight. So again, my name is Wiley Goodman. I am a senior economic development planner with the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. I work with Laura Brennan, who some of you may know. She's the economic development program manager there. And I'm here to talk about what's, as Renee said, is the SEDS report. It stands for Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Report. It's a report that BRPC is required to deliver to the U.S. federal government, to the Economic Development Administration. It's a report that is updated every 5 years. So the last SEDS was for 2017 through 2022, and the next one is 2023 to 2027. And what this report does is look at the economic condition and trends in Berkshire County for the county as a whole, but with an understanding that each town, of course, has their own unique issues and challenges. BRPC has been providing the EDA with SEDS reports since 2011, and we recently were approved, BRPC was recently approved by EDA in our request for designation as something called an Economic Development District, and we received a lot of support from folks like Renee here in Sheffield for that. And that designation recognizes the region's demonstrated enthusiasm and competence in partnering with EDA to pursue mutually held goals of regional collaboration around economic development and innovation-driven economic growth. And it also serves as the foundation for future economic successes that will benefit families and businesses in the region. Some of you, I know, have the presentation with you that I'll be just quickly talking through. It's about a 10-minute presentation, but I will also add to it a little bit of the board up there. So the SEDS serves as a guide, okay? It's a guide and a process that Berkshire County stakeholders can use to inform their understanding of the region's economic strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's called a SWOT analysis, which many of you, I'm sure, have heard of. And it acts as a background document that towns can refer to when applying for funding to demonstrate a project's alignment with broader regional economic goals. So our current SEDS identifies projects that represent the region's greatest needs. So the three examples that you might see on your handout there are things like Broadband for All, something called the Berkshire Compact for Education, and the Berkshire County STEM Pipeline Network. And some other, there were some changes actually that I made to the document tonight, so it may be slightly off from, there might be something else on there that is not included in my notes here, but three projects that again represent the greatest needs. So we need broadband across the county. We need to make sure we have a pipeline of youth that are prepared for jobs in a future workforce in STEM. And we need to look at our critical development sites where we think we can create future jobs. The SEDS also identifies projects. These are defined as programs, initiatives, studies, or education that we think have the potential to enhance the region. So these are not needs, these are projects that we want to build on. And these are projects that can be both physical or human, and that if funded and implemented, stakeholders believe will build on the county's strengths and create new growth opportunities that will benefit people and towns economically. So those include things like the Berkshire County Digital Economy Build to Scale, which again is a way that we want to be future thinking and preparing. We want to be proactive in making sure that Berkshire County is prepared to deal with a very different workforce and workplace than that we will all need to be prepared for in the future. Lastly, we talk about physical infrastructure projects. These are projects that are critical for taking underutilized spaces, putting them to productive use, and create jobs and leverage diverse private and public funding to maximize impact. So these physical infrastructure projects represent the largest category of priority projects in the SEDS, and we try to distribute those fairly evenly across the county. So again, we have projects, like Greylock Glen that you may have heard of, and Adams, where there's money coming in from the Commonwealth to create and maximize our outdoor recreation economy by creating a forest center, an environmental education center, trails, things like that that will bring tourists to the region. We're also looking at things like redevelopment of Eagle Mill and Lee, Greylock Mill and other places, and Crane Stationery in Dalton is just a few examples. So between now and December 22nd, when we have to turn this report into the federal government, BRPC is continuing its efforts to track down and analyze data, survey stakeholders, conduct focus groups, and organize materials along with photographs, maps, charts, and infographics into a compelling report that we really want to make sure is understood by a lay audience. We don't just want this to be an academic document that's like hundreds of pages long that sits on a shelf. We really want it to be an actionable document that towns can use. And so the reason I'm here, and the reason, I want to hear from all of you is we want to learn more about your perspective on your town's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, what worked well to strengthen your town economically during COVID, and in what areas do you continue to be challenged. Now, this board up here demonstrates the 3 categories. We want to keep this really understandable, again, to lots of people. So the way we are conceptualizing our economy, and this didn't come from us, it actually comes from an economist who looks at rural resilience, a man by the name of Brian Dobson, who's a researcher in Nebraska. We want to help people think about economic resilience through this pyramid structure of the resilience of our people, the resilience of our community, and lastly, the resilience of our economy. So we think that a resilient economy has to be, as a foundation, has to have resilient people. And so as a result of that, we are looking at our SEDS in terms of these categories. So for example, with people, we look at things like childcare and housing. How were people, again, affected during COVID? We know that a lot of people had to leave the workforce because there wasn't enough childcare for them. We also know housing prices are going up, and so workers, if they can't afford to live here, right, it has a ripple effect across our economy. In terms of community, again, we think about things like our public sector, our broadband for all, public transit. How resilient are our municipal governments? We've done an analysis looking at the websites of all the towns in the Berkshires, looking at cybersecurity, looking at whether they have easily identifiable and accessible information for new businesses that want to move to their town. So if I come to the website of Sheffield and I'm a new business owner, well, I know what pathway to follow to quickly establish a business here, right? So things like that. So we are, again, we have a process going on between now and December. And in addition to sharing this presentation, we want to encourage you to write to us at BRPC. My email address is on this presentation, and Renee certainly has it. And you can reach out to us, me, by email with your thoughts, your ideas, and feedbacks about, again, where is your economy, how resilient was Sheffield before COVID, during COVID, and now, and what does Sheffield need to increase its resiliency in terms of its people, community, and economy. So that's about all I have for tonight, and I'll take any questions if you have.
Thank you, Wiley. Are there questions for Wiley at this moment? I think what we're going to do is see if we put this on our website with a brief introduction, capturing some of the comments that we made, Wiley, and invite people to send their comments directly to you. Okay, so we'll do that hopefully within the next week. But if anyone has comments now, Dennis, would you please stand, say your name, and then your address and talk really loud.
Dennis Sears, town of Sheffield. I also happen to be a member of the school committee for the 5-town regional district.
Yes.
And I noticed here that one of your bullet points on one of the first pages is connecting activities, high school internship program. Have you had any connection with the district in terms of we're right kind of like a the start of launching a major program for
is it called
internships and, that type of thing.
Yeah. So I am aware of the 8-town regional school planning board, if that's what you're referring to.
No. This is that's basically a totally different thing.
Okay.
This is this district taking a look at what we can do to do a better job of generating more activities involving internships and so on for
That's
students.
great.
So,
I would love to learn more about that.
Dennis, you got Wiley's address there. Maybe you can put some documents together and forward that information to her. Okay?
Thank you.
wonderful. This is exactly the type of thing you're looking for. right?
Exactly, yes.
oh, yeah.
Kathy?
Hi, Kathy Orlando. It was great to see that growing the future food economy of the Berkshires is part of that. And I'm wondering if there's been outreach to the region's farmers to be able to get direct input there. And if not, I'm on the board of our Farm Bureau of the county. There are ag commissions, in most of the communities, and so I'd be happy to be able to work with you and trying to reach out, because I think maybe to be able to make this really practical.
Yes.
And to address that food gaps that we saw in the pandemic, and how important it is to make sure that our local food, is here, and that our farms are viable. We have a great soil base, but, without having the linkages and making those farms viable, they're not going to be there for us. So please, it was wonderful to see that that's there.
Yes.
And I'll connect with you later.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I have a question. Sally Boyce, 69th Street. Do you have an actual list of questions that might help people give you some feedback?
Yes, those questions right up there.
I can't see the board because of reflection on.
Yes, I will.
Possibly you can just read them out loud?
Yes, and I will also send them to Renee, and I apologize for a little typo I see, but thinking about, because the section, just to be clear, there's the Comprehensive Economic Development Report is a major document that covers lots of different areas. This section that I deal with and that I will be focused on is only about resilience. So my outreach to all of you is specifically around the topic of resilience. So the question is, how resilient was Sheffield in your mind before COVID? We can all remember back 2 years ago. What happened during COVID? So how resilient was Sheffield during COVID? Again, and you can separate it out in terms of the people, the community, or the economy. And then how resilient do you see Sheffield being now? And you could also, if you want, sort of think out to the future a little bit, again, in that 2023 to 2027 framework, thinking about, what do we need to be resilient in this 5-year framework? And I guess that's kind of the second question. So what does Sheffield need to do to increase its resiliency? So those are really just trying to keep the questions super simple.
But let me make sure this is correct so we don't have people focusing just on resiliency. If they want to make comments on anything, they can send those comments to you.
Yes.
And you will get them to your counterpart at ARPC who's
Right.
handling that section, such as education or
Absolutely.
community or, okay. great.
Yeah, and this hopefully is not the last time you'll see me either. We, again, the SEDS is a process. So we see this as the first outreach to select boards. I have a schedule through the whole month of presenting to select boards across the county. So I think you guys are maybe number 3. So each time I come out and I get, great feedback like this, it informs, where we sort of go next.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, otherwise, let's see. Well, we're just gonna, I'll send you a writing on the answer this can come to us. We'll get it on the website, because I don't think any of us saw it. Otherwise, we could have projected on this. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all.
And please feel free to just leave if you wish. You don't have to sit through the rest of the meeting, but this is terrific. All right. So we'll get that up on the website next week, and we'll go forward. Our next item is a discussion, action regarding the 2021, or maybe this is 22, Arbor Day?
It's 2021.
Okay, Arbor Day Proclamation. Rhonda?
So in front of you, you have the 2021 Arbor Day Proclamation. We do this every year. We received the designation, I believe, as Tree City again for 2021. And then we're applying, and we also have in front of you the application for certification for Tree City USA.
All right. Any questions on this for Rhonda? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we authorize Renee Wood to sign the application for certification for 2021 Tree City USA. And
The proclamation is right on the back page of this right here, Mark.
oh, thanks. And that the Select Board approve and sign the proclamation for the 2021 Arbor Day.
All right.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, wonderful. And I think Tom Ingersoll is the person who does the work on this?
Yes.
Yes, so we want to thank him very much. The next item is discussion action regarding memorial parade permit for the American Legion. Rhonda, again, please.
So we've received a note from the American Legion signed by George O'Lean requesting a parade permit for Monday, May 30th. The parade will start at 11 a.m. at the police station on Berkshire School Road, ending at Barnard Park, where there will be a memorial service. They're also inviting the board and myself to participate in the celebration.
I'll make a motion to approve the Legion's request to have a Memorial Day parade.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have action regarding one-day alcohol permits for Dewey Hall. Rhonda, again, please.
So you have an application in front of you for 3 dates, March 12th, March 26th, and April 22nd for Dewey Hall.
Make a motion to approve the requested permits for March 12th, March 26th, and April 22nd, 2022 for Dewey Hall.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a one-day alcohol permit for Coast Quest LLC. And this is for March 26, 2022. We have the insurance. Anything to add on this, Rhonda?
It is the same date, and I believe that they're looking to give out samples of their beer, and so it was just easier for them to apply for their own permit as well, just for the coverage.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the application for a one-day alcohol license for CosQuest LLC for March 26th, 2022 at Dewey Hall.
Second.
I just have one question. Do they need a Department of Agricultural pour permit, or this covers it?
We checked with ABCC.
This would do it. Okay, great. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. All right, next we have discussion action regarding Southern Berkshire Chamber of Commerce membership. I don't remember this last year.
Neither do I.
We've been members for quite a few years. I'm not sure what happened last year. I didn't look back to see if we paid it, but we've been a member for probably 10 years. So it allows us to attend any of the business functions. We're listed in their business directory. It's $260 a year. And so I'm looking for the board opinion on whether they want to continue the membership.
You feel the benefits outweigh the cost?
Yes.
So that was affirmative.
I'll make a motion that we spend $260 to be a member of the Southern Berkshire Chamber of Commerce.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Rhonda, you're up again with a discussion, possible action regarding the release of executive session minutes.
So I've gone back and taken a look at the executive session minutes that have not been released and came up with a list for sessions to be released fully, which are January 20th, 2022, April 8th, 2021, March 10th, 2021, February 23rd, 2021, December 28th, 2020. So those would be full releases of the minutes. The topics are finished and everything's been decided with the contents of those minutes. And then I have two sessions, April 26th, 2021 and April 16th, 2021, that should be partially released. So we've redacted some of the information on those. That's not quite finished yet.
So
Is the board ready to take action on this, or do you want to see these minutes? What would you like to do?
I'm ready to take action. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as read for executive session minutes of the Select Board, January 20th, 2022, April 8th, 2021, March 10th, 2021, February 23rd, 2021, and December 28th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. And I'll make a further motion that we partially release the executive session minutes from April 26th, 2021 and April 16th, 2021.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Rhonda, for continuing to review the executive session minutes. Our next item is discussion possible action regarding application and permit fees. I think this is more with regard to planning board, potential COMCOM, and zoning board of appeals. There has been discussion that with the cost of advertising in the Berkshire Eagle, which is the only source in which we can advertise, that the advertising costs are currently in many cases exceeding what the permit applicant is being charged. So do you have a recommendation on this, Rhonda, and then it will have to go back to each board?
I don't at this point, but I can certainly do up a chart for you on what it costs us to advertise for each board and what each applicant is paying.
Okay.
I can have that for your next meeting.
Great. And are we potentially looking at making this effective immediately with the boards adjusting their whatever regulations as required and the paperwork, or are we looking to wait till July 1st?
My suggestion would be July 1st, and then you can put it out on the website and make sure people are aware that fees are going to increase.
Okay. The whole point behind this is that the board doesn't feel that the town residents should subsidize those who are seeking special permits, and we just ask them to cover the costs of the advertising so that residents don't do that. So we'll pick this up again at our, I guess that would be what, March 21st meeting. Okay, great, thank you. Let's move on. So I think the next one is mine. I had a chance to look at the governor's budget and attend some webinars on how education is being funded this year in the governor's budget. And this had been talked about at the Southern Berkshire Regional School District Roundtable probably about 3 weeks ago. And I was grateful to receive from Beth Redondo, the superintendent, kind of some of the chart of some of the things that were going on, which is an extremely long list in addition to just what we think of as transportation and Chapter 70 and special education and such. And so you will see that list kind of incorporated into this list. It does look a little bit like a laundry list, and I apologize for that, but I thought it was better to put it all in one letter than to sprinkle it through several letters. It also turns out that we're directing this letter to the Joint Committee on Education and the Joint Committee on Ways and Means. They will be taking up education and municipal support at a hearing on the 15th of March, and I wanted to get this in. You also notice the usual laundry list of people who are copied, including the governor, the speaker, the president, our senator, and all of the 4 Berkshire representatives. 2 things that come out in this is, one is a request for fully funding Chapter 70, which right now we are taking on transportation, we are taking a tremendous hit on that right now. The second thing is to increase the funding per student to $100 rather than $30 per student. That has not been changed in some time, and it was pointed out to me that 43% of the districts, of which we are one of them, is getting minimum aid regarding the education of our children. So that's kind of also, we wanted to have the inflation factor the same across all figuring it. Right now, they're increasing it where it's to their benefit, and they're decreasing it when it is not to their benefit, which costs us more. So that's kind of a summary of this. And I know there's probably edits. I can see Martin. He's my good editor. I just wanted to see if there were questions, changes. I would like to see if we can take this up tonight so we can get it in time. But let's open it up to discussion. Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for drafting this. It reads very well. I don't have any edits per se, but I think we should add the Mass Municipal Association as a CC.
Absolutely.
If we could.
Yes, thank you.
And then the only other thing, the very last sentence on the last page, which is the footnote, if you will, could we simply identify what the median income in Berkshire County is compared to the state? You say it says it is well known, but maybe it jumps.
Let me try and get that from Mark tomorrow.
Okay, it more jumps out if we know what the rough numbers are, I think. That's just my recommendation.
Would you rather have that be Sheffield's if it's lower?
Yes.
Okay, the lower of the 2?
Yes.
Okay. I think Sheffield's will be higher. Okay, I'll get that from Mark tomorrow. Add that. Is that all right with you, Bill?
Yes.
Do you have any more comments?
No, thank you.
The only comment I have is it's a shame it has to be such a long laundry list. There should be less to put in there. I do agree when I first read it, it was like, oh, it does seem lengthy and it does seem like a lot of asks, but they're all legitimate asks, and it's just unfortunate there's so many of them. But other than that, I'm happy with the letter.
Okay, great. So is there a motion on this?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the letter as discussed here for signature by the 3 members of the Select Board and submission to the addressees.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll give this to you. Let me update it and get it to you. Okay. Wonderful. The next item is another letter, and this one is on dirt roads, unpaved roads, which they consider dirt roads and gravel roads. This is also another issue that has come up, that there's legislation out there to do a study, which in the general court's procedure is kind of the first way to get something started. This would bring the whole unpaved roads hopefully out into the open. Right now, I'm not sure that we get any Chapter 90 for our unpaved roads.
I think we can use them on unpaved roads, but our paved roads also need attention, so it doesn't go very far.
Okay. And there is somewhat also of a movement to try and change the Chapter 90 formula. And I think this just kind of starts with what are we supposed to do with these roads? What are best practices? Why do we all have to come up with them on our own? The state should be taking some leadership. So that's kind of why I drafted it. It's going to the Joint Committee on Transportation, and then the usual laundry list, which will add MMA to it, add Jeff Beckwith, and I just wanted to see what y'all thought of it.
It looks very good to me.
And me as well. I'll make a motion that we approve the letter as drafted.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Let me add Jeff to this, and I'll get this back to you so we can get it sent. All right, where am I? Okay, the last letter that I'm bringing up is we kind of have this issue of the SAPHRE 2.0 bill that I know we have been asked to endorse by Tri-Town Health, since we're now a member of that overall consortium. We did a letter earlier in, I think it was December, that basically opposed an amendment that was in the supplemental budget to provide this upgraded health standards on public health, a very well-meaning endeavor, but there was no dedicated funding to it. And we wrote a letter at that time in opposition to it because all of the funding was as appropriated. We saw that on the transportation funding years ago. They pass it for a year or two, and then the funds are not appropriated, and it becomes an unfunded mandate that has skirted the auditor's requirements for an impact study, etc. So I looked at the current bills and wrote another letter for the board's consideration that basically continues to oppose these bills as they're currently before the House because they don't provide funding. Everything is, in the two bills is, I'll get to you in a minute, Pat, is, and I sent the bills along to you, is funding as available. And I think we're looking at an unfunded mandate, and I'm extremely concerned about that. So I wanted to bring to your attention both the document that I think everyone has in their packet, which is from Tri-Town Health, and the letter that I am proposing that we send to once again call attention that this is not a funded piece of legislation. So now, Pat, you had your hand up.
Fundamentally, this feeds on to supports what was said by our colleague from BPRC, the RPC, I don't do their own. This is a resilience issue. This is an issue of bringing the public health community, 351 individual public health entities across this state, into some conformance, into some set of standards, into some way of collecting data that is uniform, that is comparable, that can be used as comparisons to set standards and to then hold people accountable. This is the foundation for how we're going to spend the $200 million, which has been appropriated for public health in the state of Massachusetts. This gives us The performance standards, the workforce credentials, the data collection system, that's what this is about. That's what's happening in this bill, and we need this desperately. We can't prove our points, we can't prove that we're doing what we should be doing if we don't have anything to measure with, and that's what this bill is about. It sets standards and lets us measure progress. It is desperately needed. It's already in force in many other disciplines, many other boards, chapters, whatever, in this state, but not in public health, where we've got 351 wandering around in their own little worlds. The ARPA money is already designated. They've been spending this last year $15 million on public health, of which the Berkshire County got 2 of those $1 million grants. They're promised for years to come, promised, I understand. It's in the budget for the next year at either 10 or 15 million. But even that, if we don't have this component, based on a report that was done in June and released in June of 2019, 161 pages of advice of understanding what's happening in the state and looking for ways to correct what has been a terrible oversight for decades. And finally, with COVID, people saw what was going on and that we couldn't get organized. We didn't have the mechanisms in place. That's what this bill is about. It isn't, yes, it says unfunded mandates throughout it, but that has to be in there. This is not a finance bill. This is a policy bill. This is a procedure bill that's going to give us the workforce credentials, the data collection system, the performance standards, which are so badly needed. I think you're misunderstanding the bill.
I was a Board of Health member for, I think, 3 years. I understand what goes on in the Board of Health. I realize that our public health system is probably somewhere there with Mississippi and Alabama. Everybody's on their own. There are no standards provided. What I am looking at is what happens, and this is a favorite item with the general court right now. Something is going to get passed. What I am concerned about is their history of when funding is available. As funds are available, becomes a hallmark of we will fund you for a year or two, and then you, the municipality, run a great risk of funding it forward. And we got that with the regional transportation, and I don't want to get caught twice. So if it is so important, which I believe it is, Pat, I don't disagree with anything you are saying. This should be a state-funded effort, not left to 351 communities. And to be honest, I'm shocked that there's only been 351 communities, though everybody has to get into a consortium. So they will change that. They are collaborative. They are pushing toward more organization and less independence by the 350 municipalities. I understand that. I've made my position clear. The board, there's 2 other members. What would you like to do?
I would be in favor of modifying the letter to discuss the critical nature of an unfunded mandate and the possibility of amending the House and the Senate bills, but not discounting the bills altogether.
So, Bob, where are you? Because Martin wants to change it. He's not stepping away from my concerns. He's just highlighting them and providing an avenue to address our concerns.
Potentially using the communication to say, we need to have this as a funded mandate.
Right. Okay.
I agree. It's a great program, and I'm sure they're going to fund it out of the gate. And as things and people forget and things wind down, then the funding is going to go away. If it wasn't, they wouldn't be putting it in there as funded. It just,
But at least with this in place, we'll have a better chance of defending what it is we need.
Right.
Because there will be standards, and we can say, this is where we are, and we can come to the select board and say, this is what we need, because this is how we're supposed to be performing. And I think that's in itself extremely important.
So let's do this. What I think I'm hearing is that Martin has volunteered to redo this. All right, if he can get it back to us in time for our meeting on Thursday,
Friday.
our Friday working session.
Yes.
We will take it up at that time again.
Yes.
All right. And I think that, you see, when it's an unfunded mandate, the House and the Senate don't have to do any work. They just pass it. They don't have to evaluate what the costs are going to be, anything. They just pass it. If it's going to be a funded mandate by the auditor's requirements, they have to do a study that shows what this is going to cost. They have to bring to the general court what they think are the true costs of passing this legislation, which is why you see so much of this language, so they don't have to go through that, even if there's ARPA money, involved. So let's let Martin take a crack at this. I think he knows what we're looking for. And Pat, I thank you for your comments. Nobody's against you. It's just, let's not get another situation where we're X number of dollars having to pay for down the road.
Right, but I think we need to understand the importance of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think also, I think my last comment on this is public health is one of the first forgotten items at the state level. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have seen, or we wouldn't be in the situation that we are in.
Yeah.
Public health has been given such short shrift, and I understand trying to correct that. So, Martin, we're counting on you. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go on. Martin, we may have another letter, or has this been postponed? Discussion, possible action regarding a letter to the water company on rate increases.
I made another, let's postpone this, please.
Okay,
I'm still in the process of trying to communicate with the new water company.
okay, all right. So if you have something for Thursday, maybe we can put that on the Friday, excuse me, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yes, let's put it on the Friday.
Let's put it on Friday, and if we don't have it, we'll put it on March 21st.
Okay.
Okay? So, highway garage update. Rhonda, do you want to do this, or do you want me to do this? All right, so I just want to let people know where we are. We are moving forward on the highway garage. No, it seems like we're not, but I believe, what is it, March 16th, soon, this month, we will be putting out the request for proposals for an owner project manager, which we'd like to get put in place by the May timeframe. That'll go out to bid, and then we will be able to issue, the next step will be a request for designer services for the actual highway garage design, and that will then lead us hopefully to a design, cost estimating, and going to town meeting for further approvals. This isn't going to happen by May. It would probably be sometime next year, or maybe the latter part of this year. So I think that's kind of it at the moment. But we are continuing to make progress. It's been just a long haul. We're doing a lot of this on our own without, we have experience in this area as this board, and obviously our town administrator to write something that's specific enough, when we've never done this before, probably since this building was renovated along with the other two town structures in 95. It's been a while. So, all right. Martin, would you like to give us an update on the broadband survey, please?
Yes, so today we have gone live with the broadband survey. It can be found on the Sheffield main webpage, sheffieldma.gov. There is a banner, an orange or red banner at the bottom below the typical sections of that main page. You click on that, and it takes you to the survey methodology. Just a few things to mention. That's the main way to access the survey. We're asking every resident in town to try to take the survey. We've heard a lot over the past few years, we don't have good internet service, et cetera, et cetera. This is the way for us to help understand the demand for fiber optic network and the possibility of the town creating basically a public utility of fiber optic services to all of our residents, all of our businesses. We've got a long way to go, but the survey is the way that we start with it to understand what problems people have, what they like, what they don't like. So please take every opportunity to take this survey. We're asking you to take it from your home if it's possible, because there is a speed test that you start the survey out with that measures the speed of the current service that you have at your home. And you do that, it takes about 45 seconds. You don't have to do anything. It just sort of automatically calculates the speed, and that data is going to be provided to us, to the select board, to evaluate. You then go on to the survey, which is 12 questions. Again, that probably takes 3 to 4 minutes to complete. And the last question, number 13, is, do you have any other comments or concerns or considerations? Once you do that and you hit done, you're done with the survey, and that data is going to be coming back to us. The survey will be up for about 30 days roughly. Take it when you can. If you don't have internet service at home, and you maybe use your smartphone, whatever, you can do it from there as well, or you can go to the library, or you can go to the senior center, wherever, get assistance to take the survey. You don't have to take the speed test because it's not going to be giving us an accurate description of what your speed is at your home, particularly if you don't have internet. The speed's 0. So, but anyway, you can take the speed test if you want to. We can parcel out that data when the time comes. But I guess, again, please take the survey. One other key consideration, you put in your home address and you put in the zip code and you tell the survey whether you're residential or commercial. The next page shows or asks you the question, do you have Verizon DSL service or do you have Charter Communications? Charter is Spectrum. We tried to get our survey consultants to change Charter to Spectrum because everybody knows Spectrum, but Charter is the parent company of Spectrum, and for FCC purposes, we couldn't change the name. So don't be put off by that. If you have Spectrum, check the box for Charter Communications.
Okay.
And that's it.
Anybody wants to add? Thank you, Martin. You've really just taken this and run with it, and we appreciate what you're doing for us very much. The next thing we're just going to talk about is kind of a sister survey to this, and that is, we mentioned before that the 5-Town Cable Advisory Committee, which will be meeting here on tomorrow at 6:30 in an open meeting if anybody wants to come to that, is getting ready for contract renewal with Charter for Spectrum service. This only deals with the cable. And we are also going to use this information as well as the information we gather from a second survey to understand how people feel about the cable TV service they get. So we've done this one's paper. We've done a paper survey. Okay, it goes really fast. This will be starting next Monday. We'll be at the library, hopefully on the table, if we can leave that table set up downstairs at Town Hall entry, the senior center. All right, you can pick up the surveys, fill it out, and then you can put it in these beautifully designed boxes, okay? Just fold it up and put it in, all right? These surveys are being conducted in each of the 5 towns that make up our cable advisory communities, and they will be used establishing data for our contract negotiations. So this is your opportunity to really say what you feel about your Spectrum Charter cable TV, which I know a lot of people have been waiting for. So and these will be, again, starting March 14th, and will probably go for about a month. Town Hall, Senior Center, and Library, and I thank each of those groups for hosting this. I also just want to let you know, if you really weren't already incented to take this survey, that we have received information that beginning April 1st, a lot of the services on your cable TV are going to go up again, and these will run from a broadcast surcharge of increase by just $3.49 to the gold spectrum will increase by $8 a month. So again, take the survey, and I think that's it on that. All right, so we have now our town clerk. Well, let's see, I guess Rhonda, are you doing the town meeting reminder?
No, we have resignation first.
Oh, we have resignations, I'm sorry. We have another item, action regarding resignations, Council on Aging and Board of Assessors. Rhonda, please.
So the resignations are both from the same person, Dave Smith Jr. He submitted his resignation from the Council on Aging and for the Board of Assessors. He's enjoyed his time on each, but both job and personal reasons have made it more difficult for him to stay an active member. He's thanked the town, Kathy, and Tammy for the opportunity to serve.
I made a motion that we accept Dave Smith Jr.'s resignations from the Council on Aging and the Board of Assessors, and that we send 1 or 2 letters of thank you, depending upon whether we want to save on postage, but to Dave.
Second.
All right, we'll leave that important decision to our town administrator. All right. Dave's been on a lot of boards, and we do thank him for, again, his work on these 2. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now, let's have our special town meeting reminder. Is Phyllis doing that, or is Rhonda doing that?
So I just want to remind everyone that we're having a special town meeting on April 4th at 6 p.m. in the Mount Everett Auditorium. Most of the articles will deal with zoning issues, general bylaws. There's a couple citizens petitions. I just put the warrant together today, and I forgot to look, but I think we have 6 or 7 articles on there. So it's gone off to legal for approval, and we hope to get it posted as soon as we can.
Okay, so that means that it might be posted next week?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, and then I don't know whether the Sheffield Times is going to be doing an edition. I'm hearing Kathy shake her head, so that will be out. But just because it's a special town meeting doesn't mean that there's not going to be a lot of important stuff. Zoning is very important, as is the general bylaws. So there'll be more to follow on that. And we have our town clerk, Phyllis C. Joyce, with us tonight to provide us with just additional reminder of election information.
So just a couple of deadlines, I think. I would like to mention that the deadline to register to vote, if you're not already a registered voter for the special town meeting, will be Friday, March 25th. If you have any questions pertaining to your voter registration, I would just encourage you to contact our office. We do still have a lot of outstanding census forms that need to come back, and going into election season, it is possible that your voter registration status could be affected by not returning those, amongst some other things. So I would encourage anyone that still is hanging on to those forms to maybe take a look at them, sign them, get them back into us as soon as possible. The deadline, I guess, we'll go into, I think what I'd like to do is just mention Once again, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that nomination papers are available until Friday, March 18th. That is the absolute deadline to obtain papers. They will have to be delivered back to our office for certification by Monday, the 21st of March. Being mindful moderator for 1 year, 1 position. Selectmen, 1 position for 3 years. Planning board, 2 positions for a 3-year period each. And library trustee, 1 position for 3 years. So again, if there are any questions, contact our office.
Phyllis,
Yes?
can you comment on how many signatures you would advise someone who takes a petition out?
Right, so the nomination papers have 32 signature lines. The recommendation is that you try to fill at least one of those nomination forms. We require 24, but there's always the possibility that a couple may not certify, so it gives you a little wiggle room. Sometimes people prefer to take more than 1 form out and circulate them. You can do that. It's not necessary, but I don't know, any other questions about nomination papers? Okay. And so the annual town meeting and election are considered a combined event for Sheffield, and the deadline to register to vote, if you are not already registered, will be Tuesday, April 12th. Okay, I wasn't sure if you had a question.
Town meeting, May 2nd.
That's for the annual town meeting and annual election,
Right, in general.
which are the first 2 Mondays of May,
Yeah.
May 2nd and May 9th.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Are there any questions so far on what Phyllis has said? Any confusion? No. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I think the last thing that I would like to discuss with the board this evening, sorry. I was going to ask you if you would please consider changing the start time, the polling hours of the local election to 9 o'clock in the morning. The past couple of years, we have done this from 9 to 7 as opposed to 7 to 7. To be honest with you, there's a little bit of a cost saving involved. We had gone probably 12 or 13 years ago. They were changed, polling hours were changed from 9 in the morning, bumped up to 7 in the morning for various reasons, and I really don't see the need to open at 7. We have the police department that we have to engage, which becomes a little costly. It's about a 3 to 3.5 hour window of savings for the town for poll workers, police that have to be on duty, etc. And 6 o'clock is really early in a local election for our folks. We're required by law to be open 6 hours, a window of 6 hours for voting for a local election based on our voting population. So I didn't know if you would be willing to entertain a motion to maybe set that time from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m.
I think that would be fine.
Okay, I mean, we made the change a couple of years ago during COVID, really not knowing where we're going. I think it's fair to us and to the voting population to maybe come up with a consistent window of time for voting. Makes it a little bit easier to remember.
Do you need a motion on that, Phyllis?
I would appreciate one. I'd like to make that official.
I make a motion that we stay with the 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Open to 7 p.m.
I'll second that.
9 to 7. 9 to 5.
9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
to 7 p.m.
He said 5.
No, he said 9.
It's hard sometimes with math.
Sorry about that. 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
And we have a second. Is there any further discussion? And you will have absentee ballots available?
Yes. Typically about 3 weeks ahead of the election. The forms are online, so if you wanted to check out the town's website, go to the town clerk's office. There's a link to the Secretary of State's office for further voting information, online voter registration, absentee ballot request form. There is no voting by mail, which is kind of the same thing, but it's a little bit confusing to some. So it's absentee or it's voting in person.
Right.
Going forward, as far as we know.
Okay, wonderful. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. One last plug. I wanted to mention this a few moments ago. We have a lot of folks that did return their census forms. Thank you if you were one of them. But we have a lot of new people in town and they're registering to vote on the census form. They cannot do that. So if you think that we've been trying to reach out We haven't been very successful with a lot. We don't have phone numbers for some people. A mailing is going to be costly based on the number of people that we have that have tried to do that. So if anyone thinks that they remember doing that, we would appreciate it if you'd reach out, and we'll make arrangements to get you registered before these events the next couple of weeks.
Could we post something similar to that effect under news, just to say, hey, in case you tried to do this, please contact the town clerk's office and actually register to vote?
Yeah, I can maybe put a statement together.
Very brief, but it just gives people the heads up again. That might be helpful.
And we'll just keep reminding everybody
Right.
in the next couple of weeks.
Great idea.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank
you.
you very much, Phyllis. All right, board member items.
I'm good.
I'm good as well.
I have a strange one, but our colleagues over in Egremont on the Green Community are making available to Sheffield residents the opportunity to potentially purchase rain barrels at a price that they are trying to put enough of an order together for the Egremont community. I have no idea what the price might be, but they're looking to kind of see if anybody in Sheffield wants to participate in this rain barrel purchase. So if you want to do that, I'm going to give you a I'm going to give you an email address, because this isn't really something that Sheffield is sponsoring. We're just really trying to just pass this information on. It's M as in Mary, WEXLER 43, Marge Wexler, in effect if people know her, at gmail.com. So once again, M Wexler 43 at gmail.com. And if you're interested in that, that would be good to send her an email this week. All right, that's it for me. Town administrator?
I'm good.
She has no items. Public comment. George?
George O'Lane, Foley Road. I was wondering why the American Legion was charged for the inspection services as opposed to being handled like the other inspection services we get.
So that would be a question to the Board of Health, I believe.
I already spoke to them. I'm asking you, you control them.
I told him that it was something we paid for and that he thereby had to pay for it.
So we're not going to decide this at this meeting. It sounds like the Board of Health should meet with what, the selectmen, or Rhonda, how would you proceed? How would you suggest?
So the American Legion does not pay for their license, but we have to pay the inspectors to go there to inspect. And so they were charged the inspection fee like every other business that had kitchen.
Including the nonprofits. All nonprofits have to pay for it.
They do.
All right, George, the inspections are being done, as you heard, by...
We don't get inspected, that's just it.
He will be.
We've been there. The only time it's been inspected was when I was a Board of Health inspector and I went in during breaking bread. And once when the Chief Munson's wife came in on a rainy day during the COVID thing.
Okay, so this is a Board of Health issue, and they're saying that you are going to be inspected. Rhonda has noted that all nonprofits now have to pay for the inspection costs because we are getting charged it as a town. It's actually done by an in-house inspector. So I would advise you to take your issue and discuss it with the Board of Health, but it's not appropriate at this meeting. It's not within our control. Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
With the Sheffield Times hat on, just in order for the Sheffield Times to get the special town meeting warrant out as quickly as we can, if you could send that to Andrea as soon as you get the okay, that would be fantastic. And then the other is just I happened to be going through materials, and this is a design guide for rural roads from the Dutchess Land Conservancy that I thought might be much more useful for the town. I think it was from when we were doing the master planning process, and somehow I ended up with it, and it doesn't do me any good. So.
Great. I'd like to share that with the highway department.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other public comment? If not, may I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, your in-person forum on CTSB. This meeting adjourned.